but also Iran. We knocked them out. 1 week, it was essentially militarily over. Much bigger country, 91 million people, and much different ideology. The ideology of the Muslims is slightly different than the ideology of the Catholics. We have the Catholics and the Muslims, slightly different. But Venezuela's been great and Iran's been great. I mean, you know, if Iran's reasonable, if they're smart, otherwise we'll have to finish the job, which will take about maybe less than a week. They were absolutely terrible on affordability. Remember, I got here, my first day, the fake news is screaming at me, what about affordability? I'm only here 1 day. Remember, eggs were up about 5 times higher than they ever were. And we have prices are coming down right now at levels that you've never seen. And now with oil crashing, you're going to see something really amazing.
Yeah, okay. First of all, oil is coming down. Prices not coming down. Inflation is higher today than it was when Joe Biden left office. These are all facts. Affordability, inflation again higher today.
Access
than
and
it
cost
was.
of health care.
Iran's been great. No, Iran's not been great.
Women's health care?
I could destroy them in less than a week. No, we haven't been able to, quote, destroy them over 3 months. In fact, we are capitulating to them, giving them $300 billion in war reparations, unfreezing funds, doing things that made Barack Obama's deal with the Iranians look like just like Reagan. Really, really tough. David Drucker, though, you have a new piece for Bloomberg titled Trump's Economic Pivot Isn't Coming. He's made that clear. And then you write, for Republicans in Congress who've been clinging to the hope that President Donald Trump might finally focus on the economy ahead of the midterms, their time might better be spent searching for proof that the tooth fairy is real. Of course, the president could focus on more than one issue at a time. That goes with the job. But he still refuses to acknowledge any aspect of the economy is underperforming on matters related to affordability. And yesterday, as we were all tuning in, David, to Pennsylvania to see whether the president was able to do that, we heard a lot of bizarre stories, a lot of false claims. At one point, talking about a burly, muscular man whose wife didn't like him despite all of his muscles because his 401k was low, and then the 401k went up. And he said, sir, all because of you. He said, well, that must be good. And then Donald Trump ended the story by saying, well, I don't think I like her anymore anyway. So for Republicans in swing districts, not exactly the message they wanted to hear yesterday on affordability. Why can't he get there?
Why is the sky blue? Listen, we've seen this now. I know there's a scientific answer, but my kids ask me this all the time. I'm like, I'm not really sure. Check with God. I don't understand. All right, it's just blue, and that's the way it is. Look, this goes back a decade, right? I mean, I remember Trump's first couple of years in office during the first term. And occasionally it would appear as though he was pivoting away from unconventional, a very successful presidential candidate to a more normal functioning president, right? And was this the pivot? Was his first address to the joint session of Congress the pivot? No, a couple days later, he was accusing Barack Obama of spying on him. I remember he nominated Brett Kavanaugh for a seat on the Supreme Court, and for a lot of Republicans that were hoping that he was pivoting to a more normal functioning conservative Republican, there was a lot of excitement. And about 2 weeks later, he said that he trusted Vladimir Putin more than the U.S. intelligence community. And so I think it became something of a punchline. And Donald Trump, he's in many ways a complicated political figure, but a simple man. And he just is the way he is. And so he does not like to acknowledge, when he is the incumbent, any problems with the country, because they're all going to fall at his feet, because, we give presidents more blame and credit than they deserve. And that's the way it is when you're the incumbent president. And I will say this, he's been in office now more than a year. As I was reporting on the administration and following voters for the first 6 to 9 months of this second term, there were a lot of voters that were giving him time. He did, I hate the word inherit, because it's, with all of these politicians, it's like they got a letter one day they weren't expecting that said their long-lost uncle left them a money pit, and they inherited. And what are they supposed to do? I mean, this is a job they wanted. They knew the conditions. But voters understood that the president came in and needed time to try and resurrect the economy and get prices under control. It's one of the big reasons they hired him in 2024. We've reached a point, and voters always reach a point at some point after a president's been in office a while, where they now are looking at him and saying, look, this is your gig, man. You did this. You wanted this job. We relied on you to fix things, and you're not getting it done. And so his argument isn't with us. It's with the voters. But if the president has proven anything, and if people have been paying attention, he does not pivot. He may acknowledge, and as I write in the piece, I think his effort in any way he possibly can to get out of the Iran war is a recognition that higher oil costs were exacerbating the problem of inflation. But an acknowledgement is not a pivot, and I wouldn't expect him, based on history and a past his prologue, and it always is President Trump, to start focusing relentlessly on the economy versus saying this is all a Democratic hoax, everything is fine.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of this war, he infamously said, I don't care about people's financial situations when he was asked about the consequence of the Strait of Hormuz being closed and people's gas prices going up. Said he didn't care about that. So he's kind of on the record, and you hear more of that when he says affordability is a hoax. I'm curious, David, though, as you travel the country talking to Republican voters, we always hear that, you know, there's some who are breaking, who are done with Trump. They're exhausted. They want to move on, turn the page from the show. And then they seem to, not all of them, but they seem to find their way back. But given the war, given the Epstein files, given the state of the economy, the MAGA base is going to stay with him. What's your sense of where sort of rank and file Republicans are sitting right now with Donald Trump?
Look, I think rank and file Republicans are going to largely stick with the candidates that are running for office in midterm elections. The question is going to be, one, where do they fit in the coalition, right? How close are they? If we're looking at this coalition like a solar system, you know, how close are they to the sun, right? And the further away they are from the center of gravity, the more chance for some fraying, the more chance that they'll sit on their hands and not show up. Depends what the trigger will be. Maybe it'll be the economy. Maybe for some, it'll be the president's handling of the Iran war with this, you know, memorandum of understanding. I think we will, though, see, and we see this in midterm elections usually, even when there's a rout by one party, where voters tend to come home at the end of the day and support their party, even if they have misgivings about the president, especially in these very polarized political times with such deep splits. But watch turnout, watch the different parts of the coalition, because you join the coalition, you're a part of the Republican Party for different reasons, and the further away you are from the president to begin with, the more likely you are to either not show up or to cross the aisle and vote for a Democrat, if it's the right kind of Democrat in a swing district. We're referencing New York with Kate Conley, a really good example there, where you have a Democrat that could appeal to some swing and soft Republicans.
And Elizabeth, it's not just theory. We have faces and names to these frustrations. Yesterday, MS Now had a reporter talking to people in Reading, Pennsylvania, ahead of that Trump event, and heard from person after person disappointment about he's failed to keep his promises, particularly on prices. And that echoes what we have had in previous segments. We've had reporters in Ohio and Florida, other states, almost saying the same thing, that we elected this guy more than anything else to bring prices down. He hasn't done that, and instead he's focused on his own legacy, and he's focused on, you know, foreign military intervention, which he promised he wouldn't do. And while Trump's not on the ballot this fall, other Republicans are, and certainly speak to us about their anxiety levels.
High anxiety, and I agree with you that we have the same kind of reporting at the Times. People are telling us, you know, I've given up on him. I thought he was going to do it. He hasn't done it. Look at what I'm paying. And I also think it's really striking too that he's not getting out very much. I mean, this was he's not traveling the country very much, and we're not that far from the midterms. And maybe it's better for Republicans that he doesn't, because he certainly doesn't bring a winning message with him when he's saying that he doesn't care about people's financial situations. So they're very anxious. The polling shows that he's at 36% approval rating. He's down even among Republicans, which is quite striking. I can't remember what the numbers are, 70%, 80%. I mean, it's still high, but for a party that has really embraced him for a long time, it's very striking. I think he's wearing very, very thin, and he's not really He's not meeting people where they are. I mean, it's interesting. Donald Trump he's a big salesman. He'll tell you that prices are the lowest they've ever been, hoping that people believe him, but they can't believe him anymore because they see what the prices are for gas and for groceries.